Hi everyone, I'm Peter Schmitt, Customer Success Agent with AX Semantics, and today I want to show you a cool new feature we rolled out in our platform a while ago, the container suggestions. What is it used for? The container suggestions is a system that should help you creating and configuring containers. In a statement in our platform, when you have to input the data fields that you prepared in the transform part, you do that with containers in statements, and all of these containers have to be configured correctly. You have to select grammatical cases, the variants, and all that stuff. We try to provide a help for you on that so that it gets a bit quicker for you. What does the container suggestions not do? Container suggestions are not something that creates new content creatively for you, but it takes the input you give our machine and it tries to find a way to create containers based on that, what you give the machine. What should it help you? We want you to be able to create the containers more quickly, and by that, after typing in the statements, be done with it more quicker so that you don't need to spend that much time configuring all the stuff. Also, to be more correct. So when the container suggestion suggests you a container, it tries to make all the configurations as complete as possible so that you just only have to click on accept and the container is complete. But it's best to show you this live in our tool. So let's go there. I prepared a small project for you, which all of you should know, I guess. It's about the mobile phones. And in here, I typed 3 sentences. And I now want to create the containers to connect the data I input to the statements. You see in the transform section, nothing is created for now. So very bare project right now. But I want to change that with the container suggestions. When I click in a statement now, you see these dotted underlines under the words, and these underlines are the containers that are suggested by our system. So when I click on one of these underlined sequences, you see I will get a window that suggests me a container and how to build it. So for example, this smartphone, Samsung Galaxy S7, tries to configure a determiner, which is correct. It also configured the capitalization. We want it to be yes, because it's in the beginning of the statement. And it built a pretty complex noun, actually, with smartphone as a static string, the data field brand, because it says Samsung, and Galaxy S7 from name, because that's the mobile phone name. So it found things in the data that it can put into the place that I wrote. The interesting thing now is the source of this data. It's the currently selected test object. So when I select another smartphone, the Note 4, for example, you see it cannot suggest the name anymore because it doesn't fit. It's Galaxy Note 4, not Galaxy S7 anymore. So try to find a test object that you can use for the current sentence, select it, and then our machine can do good suggestions for you. Now, what happens when I click on create? When I click on create in that little dialog, our machine creates the data nodes, the variables over here in transform that are required for the suggested container. This wasn't here before. And it creates a container, which is configured as the small dialog showed. You see, it has a role now. It's called subject. The noun is built. The grammatical case is selected. The number of the noun is selected. The determiner is configured, and even the capitalization was configured. So everything that is required to create this container correctly was configured. Now, when I switch over the test object, you see this is configured correctly. The smartphone Samsung Galaxy Note 4 will convince you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so with one click, I did all this configuration work, or better, the machine itself did all this configuration work. Same thing with this one. You see, it can find a preposition, it finds the correct determiner, it finds a quad-core processor, tries to build the complex noun structure here based on the processor core data fields. Yeah, just because I wrote it correctly. It sets up a determiner. It is a possessive third neutral singular determiner. I don't know how many of you knew that, but you see how this function can help you, because it finds out what is necessary here and tries to find the correct solution in our system and set the preposition I created. And now you see, same thing happened. It created the data node for the processor cores, and it configured the container. And now this sentence already works with all of my mobile phones and I just did that with 2 clicks. So that's really what the container suggestions want to do for you. We can continue with the next statement. So when I select the S7 again, you see it can configure really complex containers. With the latest Android operating system, it even finds an adjective. I want to show you 2 things. First, the container suggestions are based on the result of a large machine learning effort we did on the text, like on other texts that are already done. And sometimes these container suggestions are not complete or suggest something that is not right. We want to improve on these suggestions. So we included a form where you can send us a message if the suggestion is wrong, or if you want to have something extra suggested in here. You can give us a little bit of feedback, and our developers will see the project that you are working on, like the specific place you opened this dialog with, and they will get this message. So we can try to fix what was wrong and improve this algorithm over time. There are 2 places where you can give us this feedback, actually. So the first is if our system suggests a container, but it doesn't suggest what you want, you can click down here and fill out this form. Or it may happen that the system doesn't come up with a container that you would expect. So like if I select another test object, it doesn't suggest anything. When I now mark the space where I expect my container, I have this symbol here, report missing suggestion. And when I click that, our developers will also get a message with the phrase you marked, the sentence, and the current test object, so they can check what kind of container you would like to have here and to make it happen in the future. Okay, now let's continue using these container suggestions. When you click here, again, it selects the operating system, and it even adds, again, the static string in the nouns. So this is pretty completely configured already, but it gets more interesting than just finding the container, because it also can find out some relations inside the sentence. Let me show you. So for example, in a unique black color, it also it finds adjectives that you have in the data, black, and it finds the adjectives that you didn't have in the data again, and puts it into the adjective field for so that you have the list that you actually want. The rest is pretty known. So when I have it here, this one I have to do myself. For example, this would be one container that I would like to create my container suggestion also that it didn't. You see there is a bit of room for improvement, but right now, for example, I can use it. And I have need to have the smartphone. Where is it? Category here, smartphone. So I need to give it a name. You see, if I have to create a container by hand, you see, I think you know how much work it can be. So, but for example, it can. I would expect to create it a verb container here. It usually does. Okay. Not today for me. Yeah, you see, that's the thing I mentioned. When you want to set a container that you would expect, you can just send the message to our developers here to show it, or to improve on that specific place. Another thing our container suggestions can do is disambiguate. So for example, I have a place with a 2.7 megapixels camera in here, but I have a data set that has 2.7 in two different data fields. So here, for example, the megapixels of the camera are 2.7 and the processor speed is 2.7. So, come on. Okay, now it's back. You see, it suggests a container here, but it doesn't know which data field it should come from. So it opens me the option to select the data source that you would like to use. Camera megapixel is the first one just randomly because it's at the top here, but I could select the other one if I wanted to. Okay, and you see it added this label numeric in here. Okay. So this is these are the container suggestions. They can help you improve on your configuration speed. So for the words that you have in the test object, when you type them out, it will try to find the best possible container to cover them. It usually is right. Sometimes it isn't. Please give us feedback. This system is active for all newly created projects now, and you can activate them in your advanced settings over here. Should you not want our system to make suggestions at any time during editing the project, you can click on this little robot at the top here, and then all suggestions are disabled. To reactivate it, just click on it again. Okay, so just a small thing. This is what I wanted to show you. If you have any questions, please type them out into the Q&A section of Zoom, and I will try to answer them as best as I can. One question from the German version of the webinar, until your questions come in, was if the containers that the container suggestions create are editable after our system creates them. And the answer is yes. If you create a container with the suggestions or accept the containers with from the suggestions, you can modify and configure them just as you are used to in a hand-configured project. The container suggestions or the containers that are created by them are not special. They are completely like you would do it by hand also, just that you don't have to input the labor to do them. All right, there don't seem to be any questions at this point. Thank you to the audience for listening in to me. Maybe we see each other again at the next webinar. So have a nice afternoon and bye-bye.